do your customers and your sales prospects really want from your company? What are they looking for from you? What are those little pockets of indifference or nervousness or anxiety or just simply indifference, like they just kind of pass over you? This happens to companies all the time. They shrug their shoulders. They have no idea what it's supposed to mean. Thanks for joining me here on WowBiz Nebraska. I'm Lynn Hinderaker. We've done many shows, many people watching this program, and I guarantee you, you will extract at least a nugget, if not more, of wisdom and insight. So take advantage of this opportunity right here on WowBiz Nebraska. It's becoming legendary in a way, and so we're going to return right now to the question I just posed, which is, how sure are you that you actually are giving people, customers will say, what it is that they want, and has that changed, and how does it modify, and how do you adjust to that? Well, it's very interesting. I'm going to back up here for just a second. I'll tell you a little story. I used to have a client in the engineering industry, a very strong client, been around for a long time. I guess the CEO's father began the firm many years ago. And so they assumed when they would bid for a project or get involved in something that was available, they assumed that they would get the business, because after all, they had a great legendary story about how my father and the father before him got it all started, and we've done all these things over the years, etc. But things weren't really that good, and sales seemed to go away from them. You know, different projects dissipated, and they didn't end up with the company, and the bottom line was not positively impacted, you know. So it bothered them, and yet there didn't seem to be anything they could do about it. So I happened to approach him. I was lucky, I guess, at the right time, and they said, well, can we do this? Or what about that? And I don't know how to create value. What do we differentiate ourselves? You know, we're great. How come it doesn't come to us more easily? And I said, you know what? Let's go out and talk to your customers. Let's talk to your customers privately. We'll pay them a little bit to sit down and reflect upon their interaction with our company and the different departments and so on, and see, maybe we'll uncover something. Maybe we'll uncover something that's valuable and could give us a whole new fresh start. So he said, okay, well, you know, I don't think that's going to be very helpful to us, but, you know, we might as well go ahead and give it a shot, see what happens. So we got it all lined up. We got the list of all these people, probably at that time, maybe 25 or so past customers, people who have worked closely with this particular company. Well, I got out there in the field, and of course I'm calling them and setting up these appointments and meeting them at their homes or their offices or a coffee shop, whatever it is. So it did take quite a bit of time to choreograph the interaction all the time. And of course, you're taking lots of notes. And of course, before you even begin, you're trying to say, what would be the best question to ask? You know, what has happened since you began working with them that you think has changed for the better or the worse, et cetera. I mean, you really have to think carefully about these questions so that the answers you get are, you know, have strategic implications. Well, anyway, so I did that, and it took, oh my goodness, at least 6 weeks to talk to everybody that we were envisioning. And then, of course, we had to go off for, I think it was 2 weeks, and write a report that reflected everything, the feedback that we were getting. But as we went through and just kind of climbed, it was like climbing up the side of a rocky mountain. You know, there's just a lot of different directions you could go, and you kind of lift up and all that. And one organization here in the Omaha area, and I'm not going to mention their name, it's not necessary really. And I was sitting in front of the CEO of that company. I said, you know these guys and so on. Thanks for bringing me in. And what can I ask you about this or that, this or that? The first question that really kind of opened the door to our dialogue was, I said, if this company here were a Chevy Corvette or a Ford F-150 truck, which one of those two would really symbolize or kind of represent, you know, this particular company? Well, he never heard a question like that before. So it's kind of a right brain answer, right? So he was kind of reflecting, and yeah, that's an interesting question. linking people to symbols. That's something very different. Anyway, so that began to really get to the substance, the nub of the whole thing. And he finally leaned forward. This would have been around 25 minutes into the dialogue, into this research dialogue. We call it qualitative research. He said, here's the thing. They're proud of their past, and so they refer to their past a lot. They do a lot of things that, were understood or invented or whatever from the past. And we understand why they would do that. But the fact of the matter is, the people I have around me, they don't seem to be interested at all in any of that stuff. They want to hear about the future. In this particular case, the future of engineering, although that applies to a broad realm of things. But he said, we're interested in the latest thing. We want to talk about or hear about the latest thing, something that kind of fits into the industry trends and is kind of feels like they're pushing us forward right to the very front of what is happening in this particular industry that we were discussing. This was revelatory, all right? It was foundational. It was very interesting. People talk about, what's positioning? Nobody cares about positioning. We're just here, we're good, everybody likes us, we're fine. Yeah, it's not like that. So I had to work and extricate, and he was a little bit emotional. He was wrapping up the appointment. He wanted to kind of wrap this up, and he wanted to get it out on the table finally, because he could see I was sincere. And this is what he said: we're not interested in their past. They are, but we're not. We're interested in the future. Well, that's a home run, right? That's a home run. That's why research exists. So when I came back with that, and there was lots and lots of other insights and different things that people would say, but this was the fundamental revelation. And the whole company said, what do we do now? Well, I had answers for that, of course. Get out there into the industry, get a trade exhibit, get out there and listen to the speakers, start embracing the latest technology, brand it, synthesize it, pull it together, and so on. And so I do want you to think carefully now. Many, many, many companies, and the smaller they are, the truer this assertion is, do not think about conducting research, right? Finding somebody you can trust, somebody who has the time, you can go out there and schedule it and do it professionally and so on. But eventually you have to ask the hard questions. Is this company kept up with changes in this industry, yes or no? If you had to hire somebody else, maybe 2 or 3 other companies, how would they compare to this company? Why do you say that? Etc. Okay? So out of that, maybe two months of hard work, you come back with a study, a report, could be 20, 30, 40 pages, something like that. And then that's when it gets interesting, doesn't it? Huh? They go, well, hey, boss, look what they learned here, and they say this, and they say this. What are we going to do here, right? That's when the moment arrives. That's when the egg cracks open and the little chickie comes walking out right there. So in this particular case, I'll continue this little story here and be quick here. So we went off into a hole. They said, well, just tell us what we should do now. I mean, if these things are true, that means we should probably do something different. I said, you need to have a repositioning. You need to emphasize different things. You need to look, feel, and talk in a different way. Wow, that sounds big. So I had a guy that worked with me closely, and the two of us went off for maybe a 10-day period of time. And as the process began, and this is about creativity, I'm going to tell you, we're going to talk about creativity in business in a minute, but here's what happens. It's very interesting. You start with one idea, right? And they said this and they said that, so what about this, and let's do that. So we kind of cobbled together some imagery and a headline. And then we go, well, let's do this over here, we can do this, right? And we're going to make it beautiful, and this will be kind of abstract, but we're going to have a different, right? And on it goes. We brought them 8 different concepts. Now, I don't want to say advertising concepts. It was really profoundly more than just advertising, by the way. but 8 different, very, very cool, well-designed, big images, different headlines, of course, from each, up on the wall. I mean, people are like, wow. They said, give us a week. We want all the employees to vote on their favorite concept that we can now represent. We can put on the front of the building and our brochures and all. No problem, that's fine. So that was the beginning of an exciting relationship. It led to many, got to execute eventually, right? But it was really an eye-opening moment because the research was a catalyst and it helped us think outside the box, everybody included. All right, so that's the first portion of our show today here on WowBiz Nebraska. I just kind of took my time to let you know that research is possible, it has strategic implications, and it takes time and energy to walk through and say, what does this mean? What does this mean? Do we do this? What does that lead to maybe it's a new market segment. Maybe that's just not our product and we tweak it a little bit and there we are, you know. But there are entire industry segments right now that are not dominated by certain people and certain companies, and you can go in there and you say, we're going to carve this out. This is going to be a section of this industry, whole section of the industry, and we think there's an opportunity there. We might be wrong, but we might not be wrong. So there you go. All right, so that's right here on WowBiz Nebraska, and I'm going to show you a picture here. You've probably already seen this already, but it has a couple interesting things. At the very top of this flyer, you see it, right? Truth creates traction. In other words, when people feel in their gut that this guy or gal is saying something important here and nobody else is really getting it, but this person is saying it passionately and eloquently, all that, we might want to go that direction because I think in my gut I'm feeling the truth at this moment and I'm going to go that way. We're going to go that way. That guy is going to lead us to the next area of opportunity. Now, of course, as you can see, it says, what do your customers and sales prospects really want from your company? It's such a fascinating conversation to have when people sit around, maybe after work or over a drink or whatever it is, and people just don't know. They've thought, well, why would they want anything other than what we are providing currently, right? Now, this is the moment, right? And by the way, I'm going to have some things here on the back of this little flyer, but I'm just going to tell you very quickly. Once you have the research and you're agreeing on the conclusion of the research, now you can go off and create an advertising campaign and actually feel like you're going to make a difference. People are going to read that and they might respond. Or you could reposition your entire industry or your entire community so that you can attract workers and employees in addition to customers. So you can create some good vibes around a rebranding or a repositioning. They can create, as I mentioned before, you can create a strategic plan that clarifies what the growth opportunities are. You can create a video, do some kind of a video email type situation, and then send it out, right, to 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 people. Say, hey, we uncovered a nugget. We got something here you may not have thought about, but we believe in this. It even gives you an opportunity to walk into a chamber of commerce or other business organizations and really kind of say, hey, we're reborn in a way, all right? We're reborn. Just ask us. We got an answer, a big answer, and it's relevant. And then finally, if you want, you could be interviewed by somebody like myself or somebody else and really kind of do an entertaining spin on this process that I just described to you, which, by the way, would take about 90 days, I think, to kind of get launched. So I'm going to say this before we segue into the promotional portion or the sponsorship of our show here in WowBiz Nebraska. I'm going to say one thing to you. When you watch this show, we're done now talking about research and strategy, although we never get done with that really, honestly. You're going to hold, it's like holding a little seed. If you grew up in the farm or you've been back in the gardening area and you pick up a little seed. But that seed, that mental nugget that I'm trying to define to you, could reshape everything in your career, in your life, in your future. It could redefine the place, the purpose, and most importantly, the possibilities that exist. Little seed like this, a little nugget of truth that nobody else wanted to say because it wouldn't be politically correct. But you hear that one thing right there and boom, all kinds of opportunities reveal themselves. That's right. So there we go. Again, that first half of our show, lots of interesting ideas there, and hopefully somebody out there is going to be thinking about research. But the sponsor of WowBiz Nebraska, and I'm going to mention this to you very quickly here because we got a lot to talk about, but this is it's a great organization. I'm talking about breakthrough. You know, are there some things in your life or in your business where you go, you know, I've never done this before. This is incredible. This is changing everything. My goodness, you know, that's where we're at. I'm going to talk to you right now about the sponsor of this show. It's called V-Mail Voltage. V-Mail Voltage. Now let's back up for just a second. We all know that video is a hugely important element. Obviously, you're watching video right now, and it has great impact from a marketing and an engagement point of view. You know all that stuff. But in the web, and of course, a lot of people know about video on the web, and of course, they want to email. They want to make a sale, right? So V-mail would be video email, and then there's voltage, this word that kind of implies electricity and energy and engagement and all that. But V-mail has something nobody else has. Of course, we all care about that, don't we? Because as you know, when you receive a video in the mail or somebody sends you a video, you've got to take a look at that link, got to look for that link, right? And you see the link, okay, is it okay to, it's all right, gonna be okay? All right, I don't want to do anything weird, you know. I'll click on this link right here. All right, fine, there we go. Right, and there we are with a video and all that. But what if, and then, by the way, of course, then you have to make a decision, and some people says, well, I don't know, I wouldn't touch that link, you know. So if I sent you an email, no link, no clicks necessary, maybe the subject line has something a little provocative, maybe it says video, your solution for the future, or something interesting. So you click on your email system, and up comes an image. Now I'm going to say for the time being, I don't mean to be self-centric, but let's just pretend that it's me right there, right? Because this is a business that utilizes me and my talent. But anyway, so the idea is all of a sudden, there's somebody saying, hi, how you doing? It's great to talk to you. By the way, here's a company, somebody I've come across. I know you should talk to those people. They're very smart. Here's what's important. They understand your problem. They've analyzed it. They told me all about it. Very interesting. But what I like about it is they really know how to handle the problem quickly and easily. I don't think you've done business with them, but you may have heard of them, ABC company, of course. So I just want you to know they're going to be talking to you. You're going to get a phone call, whatever it is. These are good people. They won't exploit anything, and they will help you solve this incredible problem that everybody in your industry is struggling with. Thank you so much. My name is Lynn Hinderaker. I'll see you some other time. Bye-bye. Okay, now, you understand I was mocking the situation, right? I was just doing an imitation of what would happen when somebody gets a V-mail. And somebody on there like me is explaining all this stuff, as I've already implied. And so all of a sudden, there's no need for cold calling. This is the bottom line, right? Everybody goes, oh, I like selling, okay, but you know, I hate the cold calling, man, and rejection, and get out of the way, don't call me again, boom, boom. None of that ever again, none of that. Now with V-mail, preceding, getting you in the door, sticking your foot in the door so you have a dialogue. They already know, quote, you're okay. Very interesting, not available hardly anywhere, to be honest with you. Very new from Spain, and again, look out for people with V-mail voltage in their locker. Somebody that's doing that, they're going places. They are accelerating their sales. All right, that was kind of a long support, but V-mail voltage, check them out. They're a dynamite operation with technology that changes the game, the whole sales game. All right, You know, we're going to wrap up here. We've got a wonderful show with WowBiz Nebraska. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some concepts, some things that are happening. We all know there's a lot of change, AI, you know, all that kind of stuff. But you know, let's just talk briefly. You know, you have a workforce, right? Just, by the way, just a couple blocks away from this video production facility, there's a bakery, and they have a lot of people over there helping them. They have a factory, and they're producing great products and so on, very, very tasty, different types of breads and so on. That's great. So if somebody comes, he says, I'd like to work, I need a job, da-da-da-da-da, we'll fit you in, we'll pay you competitively and so on. But the problem is, as you well know, we all hear about this, is that the employees may, I'm not suggesting that facility is evidenced here, but I'm just saying in general, you get a lot of people out there, they're working together in a factory environment, hourly laborers, maybe $20 an hour, that kind of thing, and they don't like each other, or they don't like the boss, or maybe it's a baby boomer, somebody in his or her 60s or 70s, they think about work differently than the 23-year-old Gen Z, right? But we still got to get the work done, got to get it out today, so on and so forth. So Gen Z goes, you know, I don't really think about this. I'm more interested in wellness. I want to live a fuller life. I don't want to be obsessive about job. You know, it's okay. It's an all right thing. I appreciate the check and all that. But, you know, I don't like how you talk to me, sir. And you're our manager, you're a department head. And, you know, that's cool. But, you know, if you start pushing me around and these guys that I'm working with, you know, sorry, I'll be out of here. I'll be out of here, man. Just keep that in mind before you talk to me in a negative fashion. So here we go. He said the line of communication, this is a research highlight right here, between millennials in the workforce, that'd be Gen Y, of course, and baby boomers who lead many of the corporations still in the state of Nebraska, it's completely broken down. The bosses feel like they're spoiled kids, they're brats, they don't work very hard, they don't show up, they don't talk. 43% of millennials, now this would be people that are now in their 30s generally, plan to quit their job within the next 2 years, right? While only 26% of the millennials would be willing to stay beyond 5 years, would be even willing to stick around for 5 years. So you got to understand there's a real issue. The future of work is really what we're discussing. So bosses and owners and people that are trying to get productivity up and make some money and da-da-da-da-da, they've got to figure out a way to communicate with these people. And by the way, one of the things that really is being overlooked is that many companies don't innovate. They just don't. Takes too much time and energy, and stuff is all mixed up and so on. We just like to keep on doing just like this. We know how much profit it's going to extract. It's going to be straight ahead. And we don't want to mess with the equation. Meanwhile, the employees are going, this is sure a boring job, you know, doing the same old thing every day. Some guy comes by, you know, bitches at me, you know, so I'm working. I'm doing the same thing every single day. I hate it. They didn't tell me it was going to be like this when I was in high school, but here I am doing this. I don't know. Maybe I won't show up tomorrow, huh? Maybe I'll just come up with something else. I don't know. Something else has got to be better than this. Oh, hi, boss. Nice to see you. Bye. It's called presenteeism. I know it's a weird word. In other words, they're present, but they're really only kind of present. They're not really there mentally and emotionally. They're not committed. One of the ways, by the way, to turn that around, if you're a boss or an owner and you care about all this, is to find a way to support, it's called social responsibility, find a way to somehow convince these people. You have posters up, you have speakers come occasionally and so on. You talk about, by the way, some percentage of our profits or money, whatever we're doing here, we're going to give it to these people over here. We're going to help them get their house together. We're going to help them with mental illness, whatever it is. There's a lot of opportunity, a lot of need, underserved situations out there. So what they want relevance. Right? They want to do something that actually makes a difference other than make that boss over there some more money. You know, by the way, the previous generation or two, Gen X, be Gen X, they didn't care about that, all right? They just wanted to get in there, thanks for the check, do my job, Might be nice to work with some guys I kind of like, but that's about it. Expectations were fairly low. It's not a big deal. But these kids are trying to buy into the American dream, but the American dream has changed. The American dream has changed. So it's not what other people thought it would be, right? They're disappointed, but they got to do something, right? So they're drifting around, not working very intensely on whatever job they're doing. Nobody's asking them, how do we innovate here? How do we do things better? How do we lift it all up? How do we have more fun? In fact, how do we get joy into this manufacturing firm? With all you guys over here, you all seem kind of scowly, not happy. You show up a little bit late. We want some joy in here, and we want some innovation. We want to work with these, and we're interested in you, your life, what you believe in, your values, all that. We care about that. You got a dog, you got a baby. We want to know about that. Now that's not happening mostly, all right? So we got a long ways to go. There is a company out there called Future Force that specializes in this kind of thing, but you never know exactly what's going to happen or whether a company actually cares that much. So we've talked about business opportunities. We've talked about finding out what is the reality. Because once you have the reality, as we did in the research earlier today, then you can create meaning and you can collaborate around a meaningful vision, a meaningful idea that you're proud to talk about when you're out of the office, you're out of the company. Say, hey, this is what we do. I believe in it. I think it's pretty cool. I'm going to go back there tomorrow with a smile on my face. My name is Lynn Hinderaker. This is WowBiz Nebraska. Thank you very much for hanging with us right here in this particular show. We love talking to you about it and sharing insightful information that will help you grow your company and grow yourself deep down inside. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.